Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. My name is Courtney Vinson, Senior Associate Athletic Director and Senior Women Administrator at Northern Illinois University. Prior to the NCAA Leadership Development Pathways program, I wasn't sure of the type of leader I wanted to be. However, after Pathways, I was able to identify qualities that I valued in a leader. For example, effective communication, self-awareness, being resourceful, vulnerable, and having a vision. Since Pathways, I use these qualities and others every day in my career. And because of that, I'm a more focused leader. I have a deep appreciation for the leadership development programs that the NCAA offers. Please enjoy this episode.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Jessica Grasso. Jessica is the Deputy Commissioner of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. Greetings, Jessica. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Ty. Thanks for having me today.
Excited to have you on. You are almost 10 years there at the conference office. You serve as the Chief Financial Officer and Senior Woman Administrator. You spent time at American University, Providence College, and St. Peter's University. And you've been in the industry for almost 20 years, I believe, right?
Absolutely. Yep. It's the way when you say it, it sounds longer than it actually feels. So.
Well, I mean, it's quality experience, credibility, and leadership is how I turn those things, right? Thinking about the conference, the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, been in there for almost a decade, and you think about how conference offices work, the inner workings, the ups and downs, the challenges. I imagine that you have a good understanding of balancing what the schools want, the presidents, the athletic directors, the student athletes, and all the inner workings of the conference. When you talk about finance and you talk about how finance works behind the scenes at a conference office, talk to us a little bit about what makes the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference unique in terms of its position within college athletics.
Sure, Ty. When you indicated in the question as far as balancing it, I think working in the conference office is trying to balance it all the stakeholders that we work with to make sure that we are producing our events and championships to the best of the ability. And from my standpoint, my role is definitely more behind the scenes, and I like to say that I lead beyond the W. We're not just wins. We're dealing with some of the operations, the ordering, the processing, and as we go into more of the finances, it is behind those scenes that you don't think about what it takes to make a conference run. So all the finances that go into our championships, into our events, our distributions that go out to our membership and to our teams, and to help support really our folks in our schools so that they can have those experiences, but also make sure that their athletic departments are in a good space. And from my standpoint, as far as making sure those monies are there, they're allocated appropriately, and also that we are unique in the sense of providing opportunities. I think we're a mid-major conference compared to other Division Ones. So we make sure that we seek those different opportunities that make us different than maybe some of the mid-majors. We have partnerships with Disney Sports. We have had some events over in Ireland, so we've done some international events. Even our basketball championship is a neutral site tournament where some mid-majors don't have it that way, but we make sure we work it to provide that greater experience for our student athletes. And also we're one of the first conferences to really go forward with our esports operations with a different type of student athlete. So we're different in that type of sense with some of the other mid-majors, and we try our best to be able to provide different and unique opportunities as you asked about. But yeah, it all comes down to finances. Folks need money, and you need those resources to make sure these different and unique events go forward.
Right. I want to dive in a little bit. There are a couple of things you mentioned there that I think do really set the conference apart. You mentioned a relationship with Disney. You mentioned going overseas to Ireland. You mentioned a neutral site. Are those big revenue drivers that set the conference apart than what other conferences do?
I'm not quite sure if they're more revenue drivers, but I think they're more recruitment and unique opportunities that bring in the student athletes. So, I mean, obviously our neutral site basketball tournament, I will say that it's more of a revenue driver, but
okay.
The intent of it is more to provide that neutral opportunity for the teams. So that's more the focus than revenue. Revenue obviously is a happy outcome from it. The Ireland events is more to provide those opportunities to student athletes that might not be able to travel internationally, that we have this outlet and participation that their talents have brought them to be able to go over there and for a couple of days and experience a new culture, a new economy, and have a really good experience. And then Disney, a lot of folks like Disney, and that's another avenue of being able to go down there and showcase our teams, not just our teams, but we play other Division I programs down there. So it's an opportunity to have those non-conference challenges and competitions, but also in a different venue, a neutral. The Disney ESPN Wild World of Sports complex is a very grand, complex where different teams come in and they always have different events, and we're just part of that. So I think that's another area where we kind of say that we're different from other conferences.
Okay, when you talk about being a neutral site tournament, explain that for me a little bit, please.
So that is where none of our teams is hosting. So typically, some of our other championships, you have higher seeds. So the team that has culminated to the best outcome, they get to host your championship. So you have the home field advantage. With the neutral site, it's purely a different venue. The teams are not familiar with it in the sense of haven't played their home games there. So it's a true experience where both teams come in. The kind of the field is even for both of them, for participation wise and atmosphere wise. And obviously it's left up to the schools to bring your fans, your engagement, and kind of cultivate it that way to try to make it not as neutral as possible. But I think it allows those type of opportunities where it's anybody's win, anybody's game that they can go and play, because there's no favoritism of a team hosting that specific event. So, those neutral, we have a couple of championships that are neutral, which is helpful. And also some of our venues, we just need it for the capacity of the number of student athletes that we have, like our swimming and diving. We need to go to a different venue than on campus because we have a lot of student athletes that participate in that sport.
Do you rent the facility from the city or whoever owns it?
Yes. So for all of them, we work with our vendors. The basketball, we go down to Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall. For our basketball, we're going out to Spire in Ohio for swimming and diving. We work with the Armory in New York City for indoor track and field. So all those venues we work with a contract to secure for usually a couple of years. But there is some rental fee to go into it, and that's part of balancing the budget in that area for those particular sports. But we know those venues will provide the best experience for our students.
Yeah, which is excellent, and they're happy that you come, right? They
Yeah,
want to see you there
they
every
love
year,
it.
Right?
They get that excitement and the cheering, and that's what makes it worthwhile in this position.
So looking at your background, there are a lot of people who start off in college athletics. A lot of times, women and people of color, right, start in either student athlete development or compliance, and then, if they choose to, or if the opportunity presents themselves, they work their way to different parts of college athletics. You specifically started off in compliance, I believe. Talk to us a little bit about the transition from compliance to working in business to being a chief financial officer, right? That transition, I don't know if it takes different parts of the brain, right? Or if it's all just related.
Sure, Ty. It was a big transition in the sense of a different area of college athletics. Not only at the time was I going from campus to conference, but as you said, I went from compliance to finances. I think the underlining layers that they're both the same in regards to rules and regulations, and you want to make sure it's done properly, and you have transparency with your stakeholders. But obviously, in one respect, you're dealing with the bylaws, the rules, the regulations of what you can and can't do. And on the other end, you're dealing with dollars that make the ship go, shall we say. So It was a unique opportunity. At the time I was hired by Rich Enzer, the commissioner of the MAAC then. He's recently retired, but he gave me the opportunity to transition in this new role to a new leadership role. He needed someone he could trust, smart, would be able to pick up on some things. And I do have a degree in business, so it wasn't far-fetched. It wasn't the world of college athletic administration that I was used to. I was dealing with the compliance and everything. But transitioning to finance, that's where you really learn, and more so in the conference, the underlining of what it takes to run these different events, the officials, as we talked about, the rentals, the marketing, the signage, the sponsorship, everything that really goes into it came through this position and elevated. So it was a transition in a good way. I'm the type of individual that wants to keep growing and learning. And this was a challenge for myself to say, hey, you got to learn this. And I do remember the first, I always say to folks, the first year of any new position is always a new thing because
Right.
and then it kind of becomes cyclical. But not that it's never not challenging, but the first year was a lot to kind of dive in, learn everything, checks and balances, rely on the support that I had, and then also contact people that were in the realm already and kind of use your network. And that's part of working college athletics is to use the network that you have.
Yeah, it's interesting. Was it just a degree in finance that was in your background that made the former commissioner believe that you can be the finance person? Because I have a degree in finance, and 4 or 5 years out, I had never used a degree. So if somebody were to ask me to do something in finance, I would have been like, bro, you got to send me back to school or something. I don't know. So
Yeah,
tell me
no,
about that aspect.
it wasn't just a business degree. I worked here at the MAAC prior. I started my career here as a fellow, and I think by building up that relationship with the commissioner, as well as the individual that left this position, Barbara Church, who manages the money. She was my mentor when I was a fellow here. So kind of learning under her guidance was helpful, and then just keeping in contact. I left here, and I had 11 years on campus. During that time, I made sure I kept in touch and still developed at the campus level. But then when it came time to here, he knew, as far as my work ethic and my determination and desire to succeed, that like anything else, you put your sweat and tears into it, and maybe a few tears in the beginning, but eventually was able to to pick up what it really meant for the finances here.
Yeah, I wonder about when you're on campus and you're working with finances, you're never settled, right? Revenue, you always want to make sure you're bringing in enough revenue so that you're at least $1 over those expenses, right? Type situation. I wonder about that in the conference office in terms of bringing in revenue drivers. What are the things? How are you always looking to bring in more revenue? I don't imagine that you have a donor base that you can plug into to try to bring in donations. So there has to be other ways, maybe just commercial ways to bring in revenue. So I wonder about your approaches to finances during your time with the conference and really in your time there. Has it like evolved to where you're a lot more in tune to better ways to increase revenue for the conference?
Yeah, I think we need to be flexible and think outside of the box of where we can generate the revenue. Obviously, our main ones will be from the NCAA revenue distribution that we receive, membership dues, both full members and associate members. But then we get into the world of our sponsorships. So we've had a partnership with Van Wagner the last couple of years, and we work with them to find new streams of sponsorship where they could showcase those vendors and individuals at our events. And it changes every year. We kind of put a goal out and talk to them of what we would like to see, and they're supportive to make sure that we hit our mark. So you're dealing with the sponsorships, and then over the course of my time here, we looked into our investment planning. Initially we just had reserves kind of sitting there, and it's always good to have reserves in case of an emergency. They came in handy when COVID hit. But not only for them just sitting there, we came up with an actual investment plan to make the money work for us and kind of have a different approach to where we can grow it over the course of time, so that if we do hit another bump, we'll be able to survive. I know some folks didn't during that COVID, but we were able to do the strategic planning that we did with our finances, and I think that was helpful to do that. So, those are a lot of, and then our hosting of events, I go back to not only our core championships that we host, but we go beyond and host NCAA events. We do the basketball events, and from those opportunities, you do generate some sort of honorarium. So that helps with offset some of the expenses, but then also is just another source of revenue for us for operations. We're not in the business where we're going to be making a profit. We're actually a nonprofit organization, so
Right.
We just want to make sure that our expenses are covered by the revenue that's coming in, and once that happens, then we're good. We're happy about that. That's our main goal.
Which is important. You said a couple of things I want to ask about. First, bringing on, I hope I remember the second thing, right? That's what always happens, right? You lose a bullet point. First, bringing on Van Wagner. You said it happened a couple years ago. At some point, did you and the commissioner think, we probably could get more bang for our buck if we had a third party doing this rights situation. Tell me how you came to that conclusion
Yeah,
and decided upon
it got
Van
to the
Wagner.
point, where we tried, and he was very aggressive to speak with folks and different parties and different companies and everything like that. But then it gets to the point where there's only so many things you can do in the day. We are a smaller staff in the mid-major realm. So by having that third party, and they have more of the outward connections and networking that can tap into, and they know what those companies want as far as being marketed and being seen, that by having that relationship, and that is an expense, that is always as a partnership, there will be an expense for it, but the outcome and what they would be bringing to the table outweighed the expense to join with them, and it's been a profitable relationship to have them. And I think having that third party allows more time and more conversations to happen that maybe we as executive leaders wouldn't be able to, because we're dealing with all the other items that it takes to run a conference. So I think it was important to really earmark it and acknowledge that third party vendor to hit the marks and hit the revenue that we would like to achieve.
Yeah, it's important. The other question relative to finances is you mentioned investments. So would that be akin to almost an endowment, meaning we have money put away that we can operate off of, or am I interpreting that wrong?
I'm not quite sure it'd be endowment. It's more back to the reserves, and
Okay.
we make sure that the monies are protected, or FDIC protection insurance, but it's being strategically invested so that it's growing for us over the course of 3 6 months, 9 months, whatever it may be. So it's there more so as a cushion if we need it, but we're not taking big risky jumps to have it grow.
Right.
We want to make sure we're being conservative. There's a little bit of equity and a little bit of risk, but our portfolio is diversified. There's different layers to it so that we can make sure that we are covering ourselves, that we're insured, and that the growth is happening over a steady amount of time than a quick
Okay.
fix.
Yeah, I see. So not living off the interest is basically, it's really an investment. Like legit,
Correct.
we put money away. Okay,
Yes.
got it. That
Yep.
makes a lot of sense. Are there aspects of your job, finances, budgeting, are there aspects of the role that give you a headache? Right? Are there aspects that you don't look forward to every month or every year, or is there something about the job that's
I would say the monthly credit card statements. I mean, who likes to get a credit card bill?
oh really?
But now you're trying to settle it with 13 individuals. So,
Wow.
trying to allocate where the funding or the accounts for everybody's purchases, because we want to make sure our staff has the flexibility, because, we travel in different areas at different times of the year. But as long as we're communicating and kind of getting the pre-approval for those expenses, it's just, when it comes in monthly, that is not one of the tasks that I enjoy
That you
that
look forward
much.
to.
But it's
That's
essential.
hilarious.
I know, but it's not the one that you get it in the mail and you get a little bit of a cringe. But
And so that's everybody's individual credit card expenses have to be reconciled and make sure they're assigned to the right account and all those different
correct,
situations.
correct. And we have some financial systems, obviously, to facilitate and help with that. But at the end of the day, you still just need to kind of take a look and see what's going on, so that that your staff is operating appropriately.
Oh, that's interesting, right? Don't look forward to it
No.
every. Okay, so
Goodness.
the commissioner that's there now hasn't been there very long, right? And you talk about working with a constituency of athletic directors, presidents, just people on campus, student athletes, and you talk about earning trust. You've been there for almost 10 years. So I wonder about your method of earning trust with the people throughout the conference, and then also helping the new commissioner to earn trust throughout the conference.
Sure, I think, and whether it's with the ADs, SWAs, or other departments, building that trust is really important to make sure that you're able to run the conference effectively. By the constant communication, by being as transparent as possible, by having more of the collaborative conversations instead of the decisive and saying what we're going to do, really bringing them into the conversation and having a full conversation that everybody can express ideas and thoughts, and that's helpful, because I might not be thinking of something that someone else is. That's a better action for the conference. So I think building that trust by having those conversations, by providing the information, also by doing what you're going to say you're going to do, I think it's helpful in building that. And having the personality with folks, the following up with communication, not lagging behind. I think those are the little steps to get back to folks and follow up. I think go huge and go a long way to build up that relationship and trust. And with our new commissioner, kind of doing the same thing. He's new to the role, supporting him getting adjusted to the new position, providing the assistance of, how can I help? Where can we, provide you the education because you're new to the organization. You're not going to know where everything is. But in time, like I said before, any new position, first year is always going to be the learning year. So whatever I can do to help him and to build that trust during that process is what will be beneficial not only for me, but for him and the rest of the membership.
Yeah, those things are very important in terms of trust, and I imagine that when you build trust, it helps you out when things might get challenging and you have to make a tough decision, but people understand where it's coming
Absolutely. You
from.
want to have a colleague you can talk to, and it's not, you can talk to each other, you can be open, you can be candid, because at the end of the day, you're both sharing the same reason why you're in these positions. And that's why we work at a conference. We both want to be in these spots, and by us working together and with the rest of the staff too, they have to be on the same page, to build this trust overall.
Yeah, looking at your past, you've done a number of different programs to help your career, and I imagine help develop your leadership philosophy. I believe you've done some NCAA leadership development programs, women leaders, a number of different ones. Tell us a little bit about your experiences in those programs, and then your leadership philosophy that has developed throughout your career, but also with the help and assistance of those programs.
Yeah, Ty. I mean, I think to be in this industry for that long and growing into these leadership roles, I wouldn't be in these roles without those type of programming. I had the opportunity to go through the NCAA Pathway program, which is, as you know, the year-long program, which is vital. It challenges you, it questions you, what you want to do with your career, with your personal
Right.
aspirations as well. But by going through that and really diving into your own self, reflection of personal and professional, only grows, makes you grow more. So that was a great program. Another one I did was a communicative, achieving communicative program, communicative success. That's in itself is why I needed the program. But no, that was another one. The public speaking, the getting in front of folks, working on how you present yourself was another key program of taking the time from your everyday work to really work on those areas that you need to if you want to advance. So that was another program that was beneficial for me. And then more recently with women leaders in college sports, I went through the Executive Institute, and same thing, that's for folks that are aspiring to be athletic directors and commissioners. And that's me. And by interacting with those other female leaders and going through similar exercises and programs, and also just hearing how others get to where they are, provides to your development. So I think those programs are essential for folks to grow and keep advancing. And I'm very, very happy that I was given those opportunities to work with the NCAA leadership programs and be a participant in those. And honestly, it's like, even though I'm in this level, give me more. What's the next program?
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to get to the point where I run out of programs, but I
Right.
still want more. There's always something you could learn to keep going forward. So, and I think over time, by building those, I said earlier on, my more philosophy is leading beyond the W. I'm behind the scenes person. My finances are behind the scenes. Compliance was behind the scenes. I deal with HR, the other slew of responsibilities that I have, and culminating to put it down to leading beyond the W. I'm not just
Yeah.
about the wins. The wins are great. Love winning. But I'm supporting the actions to get to those wins or to get to those experiences. And I think those programs that I was able to participate in and building up over time came to more of my definitive, or I would say a good set of a philosophy of what I have right now, but always open to adjusting. But I think those programs were wonderful to be a part of.
Excellent. Right. Leading to leading beyond the W. I
Yes.
think that's excellent. It's the support of student athlete experience beyond wins, all the things we do behind the scenes to help build up consistent confidence and life skills that a lot of not even just student athletes, staff, we all need, right, to be
You got it.
successful
That's
in the
exactly it.
industry.
You forget about that. All these things need to happen.
Right, exactly. I'll ask one last question, then we'll wrap. You also have a heart for developing young professionals, right? Developing student athletes and emerging leaders. But from the role of deputy commissioner, I don't know how tangible it is for you to do that. So talk to us a little bit about how you activate that passion that you have for developing young professionals.
Yeah, as years went by, I got a little bit more tough because my time has been consumed elsewhere. But I always go back to paying it forward to when I was young, starting off in the profession, and I had those mentors and individuals to help me along. That I want to give it back and bring the ones further behind, bring them forward because I needed it at the time, and I enjoy the conversation, and I enjoy the new perspective, and sometimes they teach me more than I teach them. But I fill in the time, whether it's through the mentoring program with women leaders, whether it's providing those opportunities for young staff because I'm bringing it forward, the Women Leaders in College Sports mentoring program, participating in areas where I can present. Recently, I was in a CALS program. We do a female professional development program with some other counterpart conferences, and we're actually starting to work on one for this coming winter. Collaborate with the Ivy, the Patriot League, the Northeast Conference, and the MAAC to put this on, and it involves young folks in their professional development. So I try to get involved where I can. I don't have a cyclical same thing every year, but whatever opportunity pops up where I can be helpful, impactful, and just talk to young folks. And sometimes I'll just get a phone call from someone just to pick my brain, and I'm happy to have that conversation with them. So because right. At one point I made a phone call as well, and I needed it. So.
Mm-hmm. And it all counts, right?
It does,
in terms
absolutely.
Of leading beyond a W. It all counts. Well,
yep.
Jessica, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Tai, thanks for having me. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to have the conversation today, and I look forward to hearing this episode.
Yes, ma'am. That was Jessica Grasso. Jessica is the Deputy Commissioner of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. And of course, I am Tai Brown with one question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.